Hello and welcome to almost the end of the season at FDT-TV. We're at podcast 57. We're almost on to Euro talk. But a mixed bag of results this weekend for West Ham and for Arsenal. A little bit unusual from what we've been experiencing for the rest of the season. But I am again joined by Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yes, very, very, very good. Well, could be better.
You're all right.
Could be better. But I'm still a bit sort of nauseous from the height of being fifth. But we should move straight away, because we've had some good ones this week, and that is to Goal of the Week. So, Mike,
Good one.
what are your picks for this week's Goal of the Week?
Okay, so we had again some good goals this weekend. Just to quickly touch on last week's winner. You did go to Twitter as requested. You did vote. Danny Welbeck got the overall vote with 77% of the vote. So congratulations, Danny Welbeck. Completely deserved. I thought he had an outstanding game, and his finish was pretty quality. So fair play to him. This week's contenders for goal of the week, I've gone for three from the same game. One was just an awesome finish. So I've gone for Callum Wilson. He got the goal and the assist for himself.
Yep.
Fantastic goal off the post, there to finish it off. Brilliant goal. The next goal, so these next three goals are all from the Arsenal game. We won't talk about West Ham. I'll let you do that in a minute. So Pepe, absolutely brilliant goal, cutting in with his trademark finish that we've seen so many times this season, cutting in on his left foot on the edge of the box, bent it past West Brom's goalkeeper. Superb goal. Mateus Pereira, it's a great goal. Started running from our half. Excuse me, left our defenders for dead. Proper banana skin on their faces. It was just a good finish. Good individual effort. Can't fault the goal. Can fault the defending, but a different story. And then finally, Willian comes up with his first goal for Arsenal. And I was so close to getting 3 points on this game. But the bastard, I'm glad for him that he scored. And it was starting to get a little bit nervy, but what an amazing free kick. Is the Willian of old. I thought he actually had a pretty good game overall yesterday. So Willian in with the free kick for me. Super goal. So those are my contenders for goal of the week.
Yeah,
you will find them again on Twitter. I will go and set the poll up. So by the time you see this, you should be able to see the poll active on Twitter. Please go over there, cast your vote for our goal of the week. And you'll see our names underneath.
Yep, in the comments section,
so.
Or in the description of wherever you're listening to it. If you're on YouTube, then it is on screen for you. I've got to say, Mateus Pereira, it was a good goal. No one seems to close him down. Had the calmness about him to put it in. But out of all the players in that West Brom squad, I think he's the one who's going to end up staying in the Premier League next year with another team, quite obviously, because West Brom have now been relegated. That moves us on to one good, one bad, but with all great sections of a podcast, you need a great introduction. So without further ado, let's get into one good, one bad. As I said, mixed bag. We played first, didn't we? In that being said, we'll do it in chronological order for all of you people who've got OCD out there. West Ham played Everton. A very solid, resolute Everton, I will say. We'll start off with one good. One good is we dominated possession again. 64%, I want to say, over 90 minutes, which is really good. Unfortunately, we couldn't do anything with it. But my bad is that it was another simple footballing goal. And I've said for years, and I bleat on about it every time we concede, the way to beat West Ham is by playing simple football along the floor. And that's what it was. Calvert-Lewin put a run in down the channel, a simple ball forward to him on the floor. We can't defend it. And it was poor keeping. So I'm wrapping the whole thing up as to it was a poor goal, but we've seen Fabianski saving them all season, and just it wasn't there. It was one of those days. I think we could have played for another 4 hours and we wouldn't have found the net. Have to say, Everton did defend very well. They had a game plan. They stuck to it. And so they were hard to beat. They matched us man for man, which is something not many teams have done this season. Can't give it much else than that, really, can I? But what?
It's a shame. To be honest, when I was watching the game, I was a little bit gutted for you guys. Again, just with some of the performances that you've seen from West Ham this season, I thought you would have at least clinched the draw, but it just seems to be misfiring completely on Saturday. I think it was.
It was one of those things that. And I don't want to bleat on it that too much because we don't get anywhere with it. We see big fan actions against the Super League, but we've seen nothing against the poor officiating. It was so inconsistent. There were tackles from both teams that were given as fouls and yellow cards, which weren't fouls, and fouls for both teams which weren't given at all, which were actually fouls. There was pushes which for 1 minute were being blown up, the next minute weren't. And it's just like when you get taken out, you don't get anything, and it's just like, well, who's going to correct this? Because that's what VAR was for. There was a couple of clear and obvious ones. I mean, Tom Davis, he come in with a flying challenge, long floor, got the ball. All right, they were saying he played the man as well, but I'd have said it was a good challenge. Showed the replay, I still said it was a good challenge. You know, yes, it was at high intensity. It was that sort of game. Everyone was sprinting. There was not a minute's rest. You're not going to get a little sliding tackle. It was slightly wet. And yet he was given a yellow card for it. And it was just like, well, this is silly. Antonio barged someone literally 2 minutes after being barged by two players. Godfrey had both hands on his back. I think it was Yerry Mina literally barged into him. Took him out, nothing. Referee told him to get up. Yet he goes, meets someone, and he's the bigger of the two. He's blown up for a foul. And you're like, well, where's the consistency? One's not and one is. Jesse Lingard got himself booked for saying that to the ref. Antonio, I think, must have been on the cusp of it because there was a few words had. But it was just, I know you don't always get the decisions, but it was just so inconsistent, even within the same 90 minutes for the same things. So it does make you think, once again, is there an agenda for people finishing high up the league, getting decisions? I know previous old professionals referees have come out and said there are targets that have to be met in terms of yellow cards and red cards, but that shouldn't be the case. It should be our target is to get consistently 8 out of 10 every match with how we do it. Yes, we're going to make some blunders. VAR is brought in to minimise that, but it's not. It's not helped. It's made the referees poorer, and then the VAR has made even poorer decisions. And I think the referees are not that fussed about it because they know it's not going to be them talked about. It's always going to be the VAR. If I get it wrong, doesn't matter because when the VAR doesn't overturn it, the VAR's in the wrong. That's what it's there for. If I get it wrong, VAR overturns it, then again, VAR gets talked about. The referees are not talked about anymore, and that winds me up.
I think we do cover our fair share of referee blunders, but it is frustrating that obviously that it's something that we've bleated on over the last 2 seasons. I think about how inconsistent VAR is, how subjective it is as well.
Yeah.
And there still doesn't seem to be any kind of repercussions for a poor decision for either a decision that was incorrectly given by the referee, not overturned by VAR, or VAR not giving the referee not giving the decision, and vice versa. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's just I just want to go back to your game against who was it against? where you got the red card, it could have been a different. Well, I suppose for any of the games, red card, and it's questionable, or
Yep.
I suppose it would be questionable by the fans. But when you get the pundits and stuff coming out and saying that the VAR decisions or the referee decisions are a joke, then questions do need to be asked. But that could change someone's season depending if they're at the bottom of the league or for places in Champions League or Europa League or whatever, and not enough is being done, I don't think, for those sorts of repercussions.
Well, we see. Well, I mean, last year we saw, and Aston Villa fans are adamant that it's not a thing. Last year we saw Aston Villa stay up by a point, which they would have been relegated had the goal line technology been switched on that first game back after the restart. Someone mucked up, but they just said, we haven't got the angles. What do you mean? It's meant to be the technology's in the ball. It says it, doesn't it, on the watch? Like, it just baffles me. Really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping that during the summer, while the Euros is going on, some long, hard discussions about what's gone on with VAR, what's gone wrong, what's wrong with the officiating, and actually they put it right rather than just coming out with nonsense statements about why it's correct. I understand.
And I think that's the thing that pisses me off, is that some of the poor justification, because we've seen the David Luiz sending off a couple of weeks ago. Well, I say a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago now.
Feels like a couple of weeks ago, though.
Yeah. So against Wolves, he was just running, and the Wolves player's legs hit David Luiz as he's running, and he was saying that there was no intention with the ball. Yet you see Harry Maguire, I think, manhandling someone to the ground, and the decision's not given because he was saying, "Oh, he played for the ball." Bullshit. Was he playing for the ball?
Yeah.
His arms are all round. I can't even remember the game, but I just remember it was Harry Maguire. And they're trying to tell us there's no fucking agenda. Piss off.
Yeah.
Piss off.
Yeah, it is a bit strange. But let's get on to something a bit more positive with your one good, half positive, I suppose. With your one good, one bad.
Yeah, so we saw Arsenal crash out the Europa League with an abysmal performance during the week. So our season's effectively over. We've got nothing really to play for. I suppose we can only hope that the teams above us slip up within the last three or four games. I don't see it happening, so it's looking like that we will be facing our first season without Champions League football, I think, in 25 years. My one good, there's a couple of options for it. So we could say it was a comfortable win, a good team performance, but I'm actually going to be selective on this one and say for Willian. He's got his first Arsenal goal. It's taken him 34 games or 35 games to get it. Has topped the charts with assists this season for Arsenal, which I think has been overlooked by a lot of Arsenal fans. But he has got the most assists for Arsenal this season in the Premier League. But he finally got his goal. He did have a pretty good game yesterday, I've got to be honest. And superb free kick, as I mentioned in the goal of the week, and was like seeing the Willian of old. And I think one of the differences that we did see from him was that he was actually looking to challenge players, take on players one-on-one, which was a nice change. My one bad, again, is going to have to go down to conceding another goal. We were fairly comfortable in this game, 2-0 up at that time. And Matheus Pereira just running through our defence like they weren't even there. To be honest, it kind of looked like a training goal exercise where you get the statue markers set up and you've got to run around them or whatever and then slot the ball away. Poor goalkeeping. There are rumours that Bernd Leno apparently wants to leave along with a list of other players. If they want to leave, I would say let them. Because personally, I would only want people that want to be at the club. We have seen improvements of a certain few players that have been out on loan. Joe Willock scored another goal, so it's 4-4 for him. It's been pretty good this season since he made his transfer. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is another one out on loan on West Brom at the moment. We've got Guendouzi to come back from Hertha Berlin, a few other players, but the one good for me is the fact that Willian has finally got his goal. But to be honest, it was just kind of like a polishing a turd kind of performance. There's not really much to play for. We haven't got anything to shout home about. So let's try and finish the season as best we can. I think we need to get 3 wins now. Out of our last few games, we've got Chelsea, Palace and Brighton left. Brighton's our last home game of the season. And as soon as the season's over, we need to strip back our squad further with players that don't want to be there. See you later. Thanks very much for your service, and we'll get someone new in.
You mentioned something there, which I think, I overlooked it certainly. And you mentioned about Arsenal fans, and it sort of sums up your season completely. Willian, who has been more than underwhelming, is your leading assister in the league, or is that in all competitions?
I think it's just the league.
Which is mad, because for weeks he's not. I mean, he had that good game against Fulham, didn't he? First game of the season. Then he disappeared for 6 months, and had a few. You get a few bits and pieces of the old Willian that we knew winning leagues at Chelsea, but I think that does sum up your season. Willian is the top assister. You mentioned also something there that I thought was quite interesting, which may be a blessing in disguise. It'll be the first season in 25 years that Arsenal have been without European football. Do you think that if our Arteta manages to keep his job this year, that will be sort of a saving grace, that he's not playing Wednesday, Sunday, or whatever the league things are, Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and he's only got to focus on the league, FA Cup and League Cup? It's a lot less fixtures, especially if you get into the latter part of the competition. It's a lot less travelling, and we've seen the difference that it does make to some squads. Do you think that next year you will be in a position to put in a push, regardless of the manager, I should say, for the top 4 again? Or do you think it's going to be a few more seasons until we see you up at the top end of the table?
I suppose it depends heavily on what sort of recruitment we get in over the summer. That also goes to say for departures as well, because I think there is still potentially some deadwood at the club. We've got some aging players. I know Aubameyang's just signed a new contract, but apparently he's one of the ones that are touted to be wanting to be off. But for me, next season, I think Mikel Arteta is going to have the first 10 games possibly out of push, depending on what the results are. For me, the targets for next season, if we haven't got any European football, is we need to go for a League Cup. We need to go for the FA Cup. And I'd say winning the league is going to be a massive stretch. But certainly challenging for top 4. And I think if the board can see that that's not happening after the first 6 to 10 games, then see you later. But again, for me, it does depend on recruitment.
Fair enough. It's who would you? I mean, we talked about Thomas Partey, who has been injury stricken. We thought that he might be the linchpin at the start of the season for the Arsenal team, but it's not quite worked out as you would like. Who do you think you need to bring in, or where's that pressing position that you need to bring in someone to challenge again?
The defence has been one of the issues, and it's one of the issues that has plagued us for I'd say centuries, because it certainly feels like centuries sometimes. But the defence needs to be bolstered up. We have got William Saliba coming back from
Etienne, is it? St Etienne?
But possibly, I can't remember where he went back. Or I know he went back to which club it was, but obviously we've got him. He's turned out a really good season, which was apparently one of the reasons why he was sent back on loan, because he was supposed to have a transitional season last season. But obviously with his family issues at the start of the season, apparently he lost both his parents. His head wasn't really in the game, which is understandable. And therefore he, obviously the training wasn't right. And therefore was decided to be shipped out, which I think is better for him. So he's someone that we've got to bolster the defence up. Gabriel started off the season really well. Has been a bit hit and miss recently, but again, it's his first season into the Premier League, and I think he was kind of thrown into the deep end. So this year should have been a transitional season for him as well. But I'd say on the most part, he's had a good season. So maybe those two linking up. David Luiz, whether he gets the contract extension or not, it still remains to be seen. Hector Bellerin, I think, is going to be one that does go finally. But then, so we need to put recruitment in there. Callum Chambers has been playing all right at a right back. We have got Cedric as well at right back. So we do have options. But for me, we do. Danny Ceballos, I don't think we will go in for again this season or next season, because I think his performances have been a bit too hit and miss this season. He has played well in some games, but on the most part, he's been the reason for some goals and stuff. So he's going to be a player that we need to replace in the midfield. So your central midfields, your attacking midfields, I think, are the areas that we're going to need to invest in, because obviously we've got William for another 2 years. We've got Pepe, we've got Saka, we've got Martinelli, and the striker situation, depending on who re-signs or who wants to go. So I would say the central midfield roles, so either the defensive and the attacking midfields, I think are going to be the players that we need to recruit for this year.
Very good. You mentioned there about Arteta having 6 to 10 games, depending on results next year. We've seen already names being linked with not only the Spurs job, but with the Arsenal job. So the likes of Sarri, who the former Chelsea manager, people will know him from, Eddie Howe, I've seen linked, and Sean Dyche. But the one that is intriguing to me, who I think has done reasonably well with the limited resource that he has, is Graham Potter from Brighton. Is there any from that list that jump out at you that go, actually, if we were to get rid of Arteta, that's who I want them to bring in?
To be honest, you kind of have to look at all of those, appreciate what they've done on what limited resources they have. I'm not saying that as soon as you get a new manager in that they'll be given X amount in the transfer kitty and be able to work miracles, but from the certainly up until last year, I think it was when Eddie Howe got sacked. It was, I think he was doing very well given the squad strength that he had. It was unquestionable. He brought them up from 2 leagues into the Premier League, was sustained in the Premier League for, I can't remember,
4 or 5 years.
5 seasons. Yeah. So you do have to admire that. Sean Dyche at Burnley again is another player. Just listening to some other podcasts, they do actually rave about how well Sean Dyche is as a manager. And again, you have to appreciate what he does for Burnley. He's kept them in the Premier League for a long while. And you do have to appreciate that. Graham Potter, again, I think he's done okay, but I think if anything, he would be one that would be linked for the Spurs job. I don't really know too much about him. So I think for me, Sarri, definitely not. Just because of the style of football that was played under Chelsea is not the sort of football. I think, if anyone, the name out of that list I would want to go for would be Eddie Howe.
Fair enough. I did think it might be a shout out between Howe and Dyche for you. I mean, as you said, they're both done really well on very small budgets. I do. The one that I brought up before Arteta was brought in, Big Sam. I know he's just been relegated by you, but if you look at the football that West Brom have been playing compared to what they were playing, if he had a full season with them, I don't think they would have been relegated. I really don't. I think he just come in too late to get anything done. But yeah, it would be interesting. I think personally, Sean Dyche would be the one. Defensively, Burnley are solid. And I think he would bring some of that, but he requires hard work from all areas of the pitch. So some Arsenal players might struggle with that, as West Ham players did when Moyes first come in. You're not running enough. You're not sprinting enough. You're not sprinting. You're not playing. But yeah, that was just a little bit of one of my things off my list from earlier. I thought it was a good time to get it in. That brings us on to some VAR incidents. So for all of you people wearing headphones, this is a prior warning.
Please take your headphones out because I'm about to shout my bollocks off.
I'll give that a solid 9 out of 10. Solid 9 out of 10. But there is a VAR official review. You was offside during that, so it doesn't count. I've got 2 personally. We saw Chelsea Manchester City go head to head again. Chelsea come out on top. Aguero with a Panenka penalty. Bad. Very, very bad. But at the beginning of the season, we saw whenever goalkeepers come slightly off of their line, it had to be retaken. Edouard Mendy, however you want to pronounce it, was about 4 years off of his line when Aguero took that, and he dived forward. Why it wasn't retaken, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, but I think there was also intrusion into the box. So it was just strange. They've sort of just scrapped that idea of doing that now. It was a don't get me wrong, it was a horrendous penalty. But I think for the saneness of being consistent, he should have had to retake it. And at which point he shouldn't have had to retake it. Someone else should have retaken it. But that's not one of the big ones. Raheem Sterling, I think he should have had 2 more penalties during that game. Very early on, we see Cesar Azpilicueta, solid for Chelsea. Really good at doing what he does, at winding players up, at getting in at people. Big arm span, and he's hit him in the face with his arm. We've seen him given all season, not even thought about. Personally, I think that should have been done. The referee did have a word with him, but nothing was given, and VAR didn't look at it. The other one was Kurt Zummer's. Took him out, ran into the back of him. Raheem Sterling went down. There was clear contact, however, it wasn't given. VAR didn't overturn it because they said it wasn't clear and obvious. Yet we've seen penalties given for less contact than what was there. Red cards shown, yet no penalty. And the fact that they said that it wasn't a clear and obvious error, well, why have they overturned all of those others and made them red cards or penalties? I cannot get my head round it. I think if it had been given, we wouldn't be talking about it. It wouldn't be an incident because you would put it down as it was a clumsy challenge, and if you do that, you're going to give away a penalty. The fact that it wasn't given and VAR didn't give it as well is why it's now a problem.
Yeah, and like you've just said, just elaborating as one that we've spoken about so many times. When it happened, I know I sounded like a bitter and twisted Arsenal fan because it went against us at that particular moment in time. But yeah, when David Luiz, I can't remember for the life of me who it was. The Wolves player, his studs basically grazed David Luiz's leg as David Luiz was running, and it was given as a penalty and a red card.
Yep.
And they said, "Oh no, there was no intention for playing the ball, and therefore he's got to go." Again, I go back to the Harry Maguire thing. His arms are all over, and yet there's no decision against it. Oh no, it's not clear. Oh yeah, just
it does bewilder me. But they were the 2 incidents that I really went, well, actually I think that should be pulled up. There was one more, which was a Harry Kane goal. given as offside. However, I would have, it's marginal if he's offside. I would have said he's in line with the defender. It's not offside. When you look at the last Leeds goal as well, Rafinha was in line marginally. You'd say probably by the same margins, but that one was given as onside. So again, it's just the lack of consistency.
To be honest, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. I think one of the things whilst the Euros goes on, we do need to, or the Referees Association, whatever it is, the PG, whatever it is, MOL, or they need to seriously look back over the last 2 seasons, what they've done right, what they've done wrong, where they can improve, different methods, I suppose, for speeding things up, slowing things down. I suppose in a sense they also have a bit of pride in the fact that referees, they know they're not going to get every decision right, and that was one of the reasons why VAR was put in. However, there needs to be some level of, because for me, I think a lot of this goes down to the referee's integrity, that if VAR keeps blowing up the same referee over and over and over again, calling out decisions that they've got wrong, it damages that referee's integrity, and then you have to start questioning whether they should be a referee within that league or not. But the whole point of it is for the correct decisions to be given during a game. Now, I think it's very difficult for referees to. Oh, sorry, no, it's very easy for referees to justify why decisions are given, not given, because they're all coached by the same rule book, by the same guidelines and all that sort of stuff. And it draws back to something that you mentioned again throughout the season, is that you need to have a panel of people on there that are nothing to do with the match officiating. They need to be given the guidelines to show this is how this system works. Give us the correct decision, and then you might start to get a more consistent approach to it. And whilst you've still got the same officials officiating at VAR level, they're going to be either sticking up for their own, or maybe it's just part of a quota that needs to be filled, as you mentioned earlier.
Well, we've heard the likes of Gabby Agbonlahor call for ex-professionals to be in the VAR room, because knowing the game, playing at the highest level, they know when something's done with intent because they've been there and they've done it. And I think you will get every professional that's played at the highest level tell you, oh yeah, I've put in a few challenges just to take the yellow or to take a red to stop them scoring. We know when they are, we know what that is. But also with the offside things, is there an advantage? Well, actually, no, there isn't. Because if there's not an advantage, then what does it matter if they're offside? If someone's got to do a lung-busting run 30 yards back, pick up the ball, and then run 30 yards back towards the goal, if they score from that, surely we should be going, well, defending was a bit shit. They've covered 60 yards and no one's tackled them, and they put it past the keeper. It's just... I feel like, as I've said over and over again, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, but the level of consistency, and if people, I had this discussion with an old man the other day, referees are not paid well. That they earn all as a minimum over £100,000 a year. What a job to do! They get that's basic. That's without their bonus. That's without appearances. If you're officiating a match, you get £1,500 on top of what you're doing for just doing that. And I understand. Obviously, they've got to keep up, and there's lots of rules to cover, and you're not going to get everything right. I get that, and I'll go with that, but be consistent with what you're doing. Don't go, well, VAR should be sorting it out, so it doesn't matter what I do. And you might find that's sort of a little on-field protest from some of the referees, but if it is, then they should come out and tell us, because I think the fans would back it up. We don't like it, so we're making intentionally bad decisions to show how bad it is. It's not. You wouldn't go, oh yeah, carry on doing it. But I think a lot of us would go, yeah, no, we appreciate that, but it's not working. Just make the right decisions because they're not going to listen to you. But VAR, hate it.
Yep.
I know I said 2 seasons ago, but the person I know who watches a lot of German football will say 3 seasons before you go, actually, it's all right. I don't think I can do another season.
It is difficult, isn't it? It is really difficult.
It takes all the joy out of it. It really does, especially when you score a really good team goal and they go, "Oh no, someone's sleeve was offside," and you go, "Fuck off, just fuck off." I'd rather stab my own eyes out than have the VAR the same as it is.
So we'll have people. Obviously, you've got your how you would expect your body to be when you're putting in as you mentioned, a lung busted run. We're going to end up with people running like matchstick men, like all up this way. Yeah, just so they don't get any parts of their body offside. And Peter Crouch was right. He said it at the start of the season that if half his goals would be chalked off from it,
would be.
If it was his limbs and stuff, that would have been offside. Yeah, it's an absolute joke.
But we've always got to look at, Mike, being positive.
Yes.
And the future is always going to be positive. So,
absolutely.
With that being said, what are this week's score updates?
Okay, so we had 2 games predicted last week. West Ham versus Everton, Arsenal versus West Brom. West Ham, you had 2-0 winners. Mm-hmm. I had a 2-2 draw. Obviously, we know the score was 1-0, so it's no points for either of us. Arsenal versus West Brom, I was slightly more optimistic. I know I did mention previously that whenever I seem to go with Arsenal, it always ends up being the opposite. But I did go for a 2-1 win, and you went for a West Brom 2-1 win. Obviously, we know the score was 3-1. That is a point to me, 0 points to you, and therefore that is 1-0 for this particular week in terms of scores. So that opens up a 3-point gap again. So I'm currently sitting on 51 points, and you are on 48.
So here's the thing, right? Is we looked set for an extra bonus point with Man City, but they're lagging a little bit. So potentially there is a bonus point there for me. So that takes it to 2 games or 2 points. And then we've got a Champions League final, which I think we're probably going to predict. We've got an FA Cup final, which I think we're probably going to predict, which is this week actually. So it's still all to play for. It's not over till the fat lady sings.
Nope.
And I haven't got my dress out and ironed it yet, so it's not over till it's over. But this week we've got Brighton hosting West Ham. We've got who else have we got? We've got Arsenal who are playing Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and then we have Chelsea and Leicester in the FA Cup final. And Ben, as your game is on Wednesday, I believe, against Chelsea, I will let you take the lead on this and give us a little bit of a rundown.
Yeah, no worries. So we did see a massively rotated squad for the last game against West Brom. Rightly so, we've got a very difficult game coming up against Chelsea. Under no illusions, Chelsea, since they've come under Thomas Tuchel, have looked very, very good. They have drawn a blank in a couple of results, but on the most part, they have been outstanding, I would have to say. Getting to the FA Cup final, into the Champions League final. The recent win over Manchester City, we did beat them earlier on in the season. However, I do think this is going to be the complete opposite. We will have Alex Lacazette back. We will have Aubameyang back. David Luiz, I think, is out now for the rest of the season. So we're going to have to kind of make do with some of the players that what we've got. Granit Xhaka is, again, a doubt just because of a groin strain he picked up before the Europa League game, I think it was. So it's going to be a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
We have travelled better, I think, away this season than we have done in previous seasons, and also our home record as well has left a lot to be desired for this season. Certainly in terms of the number of goals that we've scored. I am going to put Chelsea down for a 3-1 win on this one. I will be very. Don't get me wrong, I'll be very happy if we do come away with a draw, at least a draw on this one. But I can't see anything other than a Chelsea win on this one.
Yeah, I think you. So you go 3-1 to Chelsea.
Yeah,
I think you hit all the points there. Chelsea have hit a form recently, coming off the back of a big win at City. They had a rotated squad for that. I think that the big thing that comes into this game is 3 days later they play in the FA Cup final. So I still think we're going to see some sort of rotated squad. Chelsea are one of those teams who have got a fair bit of squad depth, though. I mean, you relegated Big Sam for the first time ever. We've already mentioned that. I would have said it was a reasonably good win. You had that moment of, oh my God, what have you done with Pereira running through your defence? But what you've got to keep in mind is Timo Werner. He will get 6 open goals a match, but only score 1. And for that reason, I know you've not really got anything else to play for other than pride, but for that reason and a rotated squad, I've gone for a 1-1 draw.
Okay.
I do think you may take some points from this game. Yeah. And that leads... Yeah. Go on.
So I was just going to say, I would be very surprised if we do manage to get anything out of that. Obviously, like I mentioned, we did beat them earlier on in the season. We had beat them in the FA Cup final last year, and hopefully, if they do have a rotated squad, because they've now got silverware on the horizon, it may go in our favour. But I think even with the rotated squads, I think we'd still struggle to score. But hopefully, they prove me wrong.
Fair enough. And then that leaves us with Brighton, who host West Ham. And I think it's all systems go for West Ham in this game. I really do. Lewis Dunk and Neil Maupay got red cards, so that's 2 big players. Dunk's was for a challenge in the game. Maupay was given after the game where he told the ref that he was shit. Which, if I'm honest, it was the referee, I can't remember his name, the little fat one, who is shit. So it was, if I was on the dubious cards committee, I would rescind it because it's true. Like, not everyone likes the truth, but he wasn't wrong, was he? We've seen more away wins in the Premier League this year than home wins with the away team. It's a big game for us. We're still chasing the top 4 potentially, and we need 3 wins out of 3 now to keep our name in the ring, so to speak. But Brighton may still have something to play for. Burnley and Fulham is about to kick off. If Fulham lose, then they are relegated. So Brighton then have nothing to play for. They are safe. They are all but safe now. I think even if Fulham get a draw, then they are safe. So anything but a Fulham win tonight means that Brighton are safe from the drop. So with that, it's sort of like holidays. Some of the players may be thinking about, actually, Euros. I don't know what the makeup of the nationalities of the Brighton squad is. But with us being very attacking, it sounds like Declan Rice is all but ready to come back as well. I'm going to go for a 2-0. Or am I? No, I'm not. I'm going to go for a 2-1 West Ham win. I feel like we're going to end up conceding at some point. That tends to happen. But 2-1 to West Ham. Come on, you Irons.
I am going to be a bit more reserved on this game. Again, I think it obviously just depends on what position Brighton are in coming into the weekend. But West Ham, obviously, they did have a disappointing game against Everton. In terms of the scoreline, as you said, they dominated possession, but we did see the week before's performance was very solid. I think I'm going to... No, I'm going to change my mind. Yes, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to put this down as a high-scoring game.
Ooh.
I'm going to go for a 2-3 to West Ham.
Oh, we've seen those scorelines this season.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a Flappy Hansky, absolute calamity. It's going to be 2 shit goals, but you're going to concede 2, but you're also going to score 3.
Fair enough. Right, and that leaves us with one final game to predict. The FA Cup final. Chelsea going in against Leicester.
Yep.
As a lot of people call them. No, Leicester City. I would say Leicester. Like, if you'd asked me 6 weeks ago, I would have said Leicester were going to win this hands down. But they've slipped up a bit. They're not playing particularly well. Chelsea are playing well with rotated squads as well. I think once you see Mason Mount come back into that Chelsea team, 3-0. 3-0 to the Blues. The old man will be happy and be sending me horrible messages all day. But you got to give him...
going to be unbearable.
Exactly. But there is a bonus. At least it's not Liverpool. Just think about that and remember that, everyone. It's not Liverpool. So
I do think you're right. Chelsea are going to score 3. I don't think Leicester will be they won't lie down on this particular game. I mentioned it. That's one of the reasons as to why Leicester have kind of gone off the boil a bit, because they know they have a chance for silverware this season again. But I'm going to go for 3-2 to Leicester. No, to Leicester. 3-2 to Chelsea, sorry. But what I do have to ask, is this a 90-minute result? Or if it goes to 120 minutes, are we taking that into account? Or just to make things simpler, should we just go with 90 minutes?
I reckon if you was to get a 3-2 or whatever your result was in 120 minutes, then it still counts. I think if you treat it as a normal game, but you just got a little bit extra and some penalties if we're lucky.
Okay. So then, because obviously if it then goes to and Chelsea win on penalties, then effectively it's the bonus goal, isn't it? So if it's 2-2 at the end of 120 minutes, Chelsea win on penalties, that counts as 3-2 then, doesn't it?
No, because it would be like 4. It'd be like 4 penalties to 3 or something. I think if it goes to penalties, Leicester will win, but I don't think it'll get that far.
Okay.
If you get a result on penalties, it's a point. If you get a result in 120 minutes for the right goals, then you can have 3 points, or a point if it's the right way. I think that's the fairest way to do it, to keep it interesting. Now,
sounds good.
We spoken a number of weeks ago about the Super League, didn't we? And the Premier League and the FA were up in arms about it, and they've gone very, very quiet about it. If you look at media, there is nothing. However, Serie A have now told Juventus under no circumstance will they be playing in their league next season if they do not renounce their intention to play in a Super League. Even if it doesn't kick off next year, they've said if it hasn't done by the starting day of the season, they will be ejected from the league. And I know we saw clubs sort of go, oh no, we don't want to leave the Premier League. I think Serie A are leading by example. Don't mess us around, because otherwise we're coming for you. You know, which I think is only fair. And I think maybe some of the other leagues and football associations should follow suit and rule, not with an iron fist, but you've broken the rules. You've not taken in consideration us or any of the other clubs and people's livelihoods that rely on football, and therefore the harshest punishments only. Yeah, what do you make of that?
See, I have read something recently, just in relation to the FA or the English stance on this in terms of punishment, and I have read something as to how true this is. I don't know, but something like a £10 million fine for each of the clubs, and then they have to pay a portion of their European earnings to UEFA or something. Again, I don't know how that is, whether it's just something I've seen on a half-wit website or just completely misread what I was looking into, but I'm pretty sure it was something like that.
Fair enough. That'd be all right for you then, because you ain't got your European earnings next season.
Yeah, but I think it's like with a student loan, so you have to start paying it back when you're actually but no, I think it's a difficult one. It is a difficult one because whilst I kind of agree but tend to disagree with what they're trying to achieve.
Yep.
I think the way that they went about it is completely wrong. And I think that's the bit that gets me, is that the way it was just so quickly announced. It did seem like a get rich quick scheme for those particular clubs, which I'm obviously completely against. And if that is the case, that they do end up running something like that next season, then for the efforts of your Evertons, your West Hams, your Leicesters being able to compete in Europe next year, seems like all the hard work that you put in for this year seems pointless, because you're not going to be able to compete with the top tiers because they're doing this stupid Super League. However, I do like the fact that these clubs are kind of sticking to their guns in some respects, as you just mentioned. Like, obviously they do feel that the upper echelons within the governing bodies, so your UEFAs and your FIFAs, they're getting too much out of it for not very much. Obviously, there is the branding side of things, but for a competition that earns, let's say, ballpark £3 billion a year, for them keeping £1 billion of that and then the rest split between the teams, that's the bit that's kind of getting on my wicket bit. There's got to be something done to improve the running of the competitions, to ensure a fairer payout between the clubs, because let's face it, they wouldn't make any money if these clubs didn't compete. So something needs to be done on that aspect, but we have seen obviously the repercussions of it in terms of certainly our fan bases. There was a lot of pissed off people that they hadn't even been considered for what our thoughts and feelings would be.
Yeah.
So it is a difficult one. Both sides, if I'm being completely honest. But again, why we were considered for it, I suppose you could do it on historic merit, but certainly over the last couple of seasons, I wouldn't have said that we deserved to be in there at all.
Well, if you do it on historic merit, it's only this season that Manchester City have overtaken Everton on the all-time Premier League table. So Everton maybe should have been with a shout. I mean, it's quite an interesting one. I do think you're on 100% correct. There possibly needs to be change. We know that UEFA has had its own allegations of corruption, but the way they went about it was completely wrong. I think if they'd consulted fans and said, we want to establish our own competition that's managed by us, they would have got fan backing, and at that point it would have been very hard to stop.
Yep.
But they didn't. They went, we're just going to get £3 billion a year each, and then no one else can join in.
Unless you're invited.
Which we won't invite you, because then if we do invite you, just get relegated every season anyway. But hey ho. Next on the list of monetary things, the EFL have today won their appeal to be able to sanction Derby County for breaches of financial fair play. Now we see a interesting game with Derby versus Sheffield United. last day of the championship season, with Sheffield United, who have already received a 12-point deduction, reduced to 6 this season for breaches in financial fair play. Derby got a 3-3 draw. It was the standard of football, I will admit, was complete dog shit. But it was a really entertaining game. It really was. But what is happening now? Now they won this appeal. Wycombe, who were only relegated by a point, are calling for the action to be taken on this season and this season's results rather than next season, because the breaches happened within this season. So logically, you'd go, yeah, that makes sense, even though the season is finished. And what they're calling for is the same, if not lesser, points deduction than Sheffield Wednesday, because it was a lesser breach. So what Wycombe have pretty much said is, we'll take 3 points off of them, but do it for this season when they did it rather than next season. Because what that means for Wycombe will stay up, stay in the championship. They did really well this year, I think, personally, on the budget they've got. But do you think, here's a question, do you think the action should be taken this year or next year?
Are the breaches definitely this year?
Breaches, yeah, from the research that I've done, happen this year.
Then I would say then the punishment then has to fit the crime, so to speak. I know we have seen instances with Chelsea and with Manchester City being investigated. I think Chelsea were one where a ban was put on them, I think for, oh no, sorry, that might be transfer related. Ignore me. However, I know that Manchester City have definitely had impacts from financial fair play investigations. However, it's that is a very tough question. I'd say logically that the points deduction would have to happen this season.
Yep.
Because there has been a breach and therefore they should be punished accordingly. And I get that they will be punished, but if they're going to be doing it based on next year, that's very harsh on a team that does get relegated or in a similar position, because next year everyone starts on an even kill anyway.
Yep.
Which doesn't seem very fair. So I would say that the sanctions have to be done for the season.
The other thing that I think may come into it is Mel Morris, who owns Derby County, is trying to sell it, and allegedly there is a deal currently going through. So I know it's a club, and you buy a club with its debt and whatever your deal is agreed. But personally, I think it would be unfair to punish new owners for something the previous owners did and they had no control over, in terms of how they financed the club and what they did with it. I just feel like that would be, it's like, oh yeah, here's your investment, and by the way, half of that might go down the toilet because we can give you 6-point deduction.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, because I think it changes the valuation of the club, certainly. And in some senses, if they stay in the championship and they get a deduction next year, then it needs to be more harsh, because obviously you've got an advantage this year to stay up. But yeah, I think Wycombe do have something that allegedly, I did read, they may be taking their own action against the EFL if they don't sanction it for this year. But that could be an interesting one to watch. I do. Yeah. It's a hard one, because it's not the players' fault. It's not even necessarily the manager's fault. It's the people in the boardroom making these decisions, signing the papers to say, yeah, we'll spend this money here, we'll do that there, we'll fund it in this way. And if they do it wrong, pardon me, then it's very bad. I do think the financial fair play rules are more even in the Football League than they are in the Premier League. And the punishments applied are more consistent, which is generally points deductions rather than fines, because generally the clubs who are breaching financial fair play are in some sort of trouble financially, which is why they do it a little bit hookety crookedy. But it's still not very good. I want, part of me wants Wickham to stay up, but part of me doesn't, because they should have ensured that their survival on their own results rather than potential
technicality.
Yeah. So mixed emotions with it. Mixed emotions. Have you anything else?
Nothing from me this week.
Nothing from you. Well, it's currently 0-0 in the Fulham-Burnley game. Only 3 minutes off. I do think Fulham may be relegated tonight after a Burnley win. But we'll find out next week. Till then, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
We are FDT-TV. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. And we'll see you next week.
Nice one.
Bye.
Thanks very much, guys.